Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Thank you for watching. Earlier today, I saw that Pea Brain uploaded another demonstration of his stupidity and his confusion about how the orbit of the Earth works. And he's convinced that he and Owen Benjamin, of all people, have figured out a way to totally destroy the heliocentric globe Earth model. He likes to talk as fast as possible, and with as much enthusiasm as possible to make himself sound as if he's actually onto something. Like he's the first flurf in history to finally come up with one proof that disproves the globe model. Sadly for him, he's just a moron suffering from one of the worst cases of Dunning-Kruger I've ever seen.
I heard Owen Benjamin the other day say how he thought the Earth's supposed elliptical sun orbit is a problem for the ball Earth model. Well, I agree, so I thought I would put a clip together here, and I hope you all enjoy.
Anytime someone admits to agreeing with Owen the unfunny Benjamin, they're not to be taken seriously. Well, he's seriously stupid, I guess.
And here's the kicker. That would be a 2,000 mile per hour fluctuation in overall orbital speed every 12 hours. That's how you know the Earth's not spinning and it's not orbiting the sun. Hey everybody, Pea Brain here. Well, do you feel it? Do you feel the Earth moving? You know that the early part of January is when we go through perihelion, and in particular, we go past periapsis. That's where the Earth is closest to the sun. It's traveling at its fastest orbital speed, and it's negotiating its tightest turn, all while spinning. So do you feel it? Do you feel this ride we're on? No, of course not, because it's fictitious. We're not moving.
No, you nitwit. Of course you don't feel it. And not because it's fictitious, but because the acceleration and deceleration is very, very slight and over a long period of time. Now, while you don't feel it, you can calculate it if you're smart enough. Except for math is lies from the devil.
Okay, so let's sit back, relax, and let's break this apart. I want to talk about the motion of the Earth today. Every year, there's a point where the Earth gets closest to the sun. And early January is when that happens. Now, they pin it down to like January 2nd, January 3rd, 4th, something like that. So this is the time of year. So this is where the Earth will reach its maximum orbital speed while simultaneously negotiating the tightest turn, which is periapsis. And that's defined as a pivotal point of directional change in an ellipse.
Notice the words he chooses to use? It's not by accident. Negotiate its tightest turn? It's not a Formula 1 car going into a 9G hairpin turn. He may be a dipshit, but he's a manipulative dipshit.
Well, first let me just say that there's two components to the argument of whether or not the Earth is flat.
Correction. There are no arguments for the flat Earth.
Or whether or not the Earth's a ball. And it's whether or not there's any motion to the Earth. I want to talk about motion because motion helps corroborate either the ball or the flat Earth. And being that we feel no motion can be detected. As you all know, anybody who's honest, if we say, is there any motion? Do you feel motion to this Earth? Of course not. We never have. But we should.
Let's go over the numbers that the two working brain cells in his head just can't comprehend. They are big, but they don't equate to any real noticeable change in momentum. The Earth orbits the Sun at 30,300 meters per second at perihelion, and 29,300 meters per second at aphelion. Now, if you get out your YouTube University-issued Texas Instruments calculator and erase where you typed out boobies, you'll find that that difference is about 3%. Now, the perihelion and aphelion are 6 months apart. So if you divide that by 180 days, you'll find that the deceleration and acceleration is about 17 thousandths of a percent per day. It's about 5.5 meters per second per day. Let's relate that to something everyone can comprehend. Yes, even the flat earthers in the audience. If you're traveling down the highway at 60 miles per hour and decrease your speed by 3%, That's 1.8 miles per hour. Over 180 days, that's 1/100th of a mile per hour per day. You really think you're going to feel that, Pea Brain? Also, the Earth's orbit isn't perfectly circular. At aphelion, the Earth is roughly 152 million kilometers from the Sun, and at perihelion, it's about 147 million kilometers from the Sun. That's also about a 3% difference. The amount that an orbit is perfectly circular or on an escape trajectory is expressed by what's called eccentricity, 0 to 1. 0 being a perfectly circular orbit, and 1 being an escape trajectory. The Earth's orbit is about 0.017. Like I said, it's hardly a hairpin turn, although Mr. Pea Brain would have you believe otherwise. Isn't it interesting how charlatans will use specific words to make you think a certain way? It's almost like they're lying to you. Interesting.
I mean, we should, in light of the fact that the Earth feels the rotation, right? The Earth is said to be bulging 14 miles high, gazillions and bazillions beyond measurable tons of earth, dirt, rock, water, bulging up at the equator, 14 miles high, and the Earth is said to be flattening at the poles. The centrifugal force generated by the rotation is said to be doing this.
14 miles? Are you serious? Given the diameter of the Earth is over 7,900 miles, 14 miles isn't much. Also, you need to look up the definitions of centrifugal force and centripetal force. Orbiting the Sun doesn't create a centrifugal force.
And the bulge is tied to the rotational speed. So the orbit around the Sun also would generate a centrifugal force. But where's the Earth distorting features attributed to the orbit? I mean, it also generates a centrifugal force, so you have both centrifugal forces acting at once. So also, the equator, every 12 hours, would have a 2,000 mile per hour fluctuation, and those living on the equator. I mean, that should cause the ground to heave and hoe, especially as the Earth is whipping around, and the equator that's on the outside should be bulging out, and then as it goes to the inside, it would relax, and the ground would just be pulsing in and out.
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
Because when you're on the outside, you would be rotating in the orbital direction, and you'd have to add 1,000 miles per hour. When you're on the inside, you're rotating against the orbital direction. You'd have to subtract 1,000 miles per hour. That's a 2,000 mile per hour fluctuation every 12 hours, every day of the year. You don't believe this is a concept? Well, let's look at how a hurricane operates. Okay, a hurricane, you could think of it as a spinning, orbiting Earth.
No, you can't. Well, normal people can't, but you'll say anything to sell a t-shirt.
And let's say this storm has 100 mile per hour rotational speed. Well, it also has a linear speed, or the speed that the storm is moving relative to the ground, right? It's forward progress. That speed, let's say, is 20 miles per hour. On the right-hand side of the storm, you'd have a 120 mile per hour wind, because you have the 100 mile per hour rotation plus the 20 mile per hour speed that the storm is moving. You add those together. Okay, on the left side, the winds are rotating against the orbital direction, if you will. You subtract the 20 mile per hour forward speed of the storm from the 100 mile per hour rotational speed, and you get 80 miles per hour on the left-hand side of the storm, the much weaker part of the storm. Clearly, this would have an impact on the Earth and its inhabitants.
Clearly, you have no idea what you're talking about.
If, in fact, we were orbiting and rotating. All right, thanks everybody for tuning in. If you haven't checked out my store yet, please do. This is me in a premium tee. Also, comfort tees are super soft, and this is heavy metal color, and this is my Pea Brain perspective shirt. Also, check out my new Joshua shirt. Very cool. All right, everybody, thanks for tuning in.
The bullshit is so deep at this point. Seriously, look up the definitions of centrifugal and centripetal forces. What you just said is utter nonsense. The Earth's rotation doesn't work like that. If it did, hours would be completely different lengths at different times of the day. If you still have confusion about the rotation of the Earth, ask Bob from Globebusters to lend you his gyroscope. And for the love of God, man, hire a graphic designer to design some shirts for you. Your designs look like shit. Anyway, if you like my content and you'd like to see more of it, please subscribe to the channel. And until next time, have a good day.